Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to go over the top 10 cards that I think should be a consideration for your sideboard. Nice thing about all these cards is they're pretty much all very easily accessible. Like, most of them are less than $1 per copy. The only one that off the top of my head is a few bucks is like Masked Santa Mysterious Warrior. The cheapest copies out there I think are like $3 a piece, but the rest of them, like, you can get them as commons or they're cheap rares or cheap promos. So really nice that this is a really affordable list for you guys, so it is kind of budget. But yeah, I do think that this is a list you guys should keep in mind of your like top 10 cards when you're looking at an event at a locals where you think you should diversify your sideboard. And that's one thing I really think about this format, is that it's so diverse and so open that I do think you want to have a very diverse sideboard. And a lot of these cards are going to be black cards because they're the most splashable cards in the game in terms of being able to put them in any deck no matter what color you are. But with that being said, like, they're also going to serve like a whole bunch of purposes. Actually, in this list there's only like one yellow card, and then there's another card that's like pivotal depending on what color you're playing. But enough rambling. Before we get into the video, guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date with all the awesome Dragon Ball Super content that I post here. If you're looking for a Dragon Ball Super community to get in touch with, get some advice from, check out the Discord in the description below. Excellent group of people. If you would like to get caught up on some competitive content now that we are in regional season, or help out the channel, make sure to check out the Patreon in the description below. And finally, guys, if you'd like to order any of the cards listed here, please make sure to use my TCG player link in the description below. Really helps the channel out a lot. I really appreciate every single one of you guys that's watching and that's doing that for me. Appreciate you guys. With that being said, we'll get into this video. So you're gonna notice on the left we got the Janemba leader. I'm just putting that there because I gotta put a leader there, but also because it's probably the most popular leader and deck right now. You know, mostly that tricolor. We're gonna start doing it, guys. We're gonna call it Guy Janemba. If you guys saw my post in the Facebook group, Guy Janemba, green, blue, yellow Janemba is the most popular deck at the moment. It took up the most representation of the room at Orlando, and then you have a lot of other things you want to be accountable for, like Shenron, like Red Gogeta, like U6, things like that. So we'll get into this. We've got the first card being Dark Power Black Masked Sand. Now this card, I'm going to leave the effect up here, but the Self-Awaken can be somewhat relevant against like Shenron decks where they're just stalling your life. It can also be somewhat relevant against Janemba, but I probably wouldn't side it in for Janemba. What I would side it in for are matchups like Pan and matchups like U6 for the second effect. When your opponent plays a battle card with 15,000 or less power using a non-keyword skill, your opponent chooses 2 cards from their hand and places them in the drop area. So this is good against both variants of Pan, whether it's, you know, mono red because they have Chain Zeno, but it's also good against red and red green because of Familial Bonds. So Familial Bonds are going to play a 15,000 or less card from their drop area using a non-keyword skill. So your Dark Power Black Masked Sand is going to trigger. And Pan has never really had a great answer to this card. They have sometimes in the past teched Planet M2. They also sometimes play the 1-drop Baba, but those are kind of inconsistent. So you can pretty much bank on this slowing your opponent's roll for a good majority of the game against those decks. Also against U6, they're going to play creatures with Planet Sadala. That's going to play a 15k or less using a non-keyword skill. So you're going to get the proc off for the Dark Power Black Masked Sand. Next up, Flying Nimbus. It's a pretty mid-rangey format, but we also do have a very big aggro format, and not aggro format, but an aggro deck in the form of U6. It just goes super duper wide. You also have random showings of like Shenron Veggies, things like that, using Assemble the Squad tactics. So Flying Nimbus, unfortunately, there's no real like splashable version of this card. I guess the other one you could somewhat compare it to would be an Unexpected Turn. That's like the most generic thing that maybe does a similar thing to Nimbus, but Nimbus is really a card all on its own that really limits your opponent's attacks in a single turn. Doesn't care about what cost their battle cards are. Just as long as you have a yellow energy to pay for it and a yellow card to discard, you're going to probably buy yourself an additional turn, especially if you have like another negate in your hand. So this card really is one of a kind. If you're playing yellow, I do think Nimbus should be in your sideboard, if not your main board. Mercenary Tau, in a format this open, I would not be at a big tournament without heavily considering Mercenary Tau in my sideboard. It probably will be in my sideboard for something like Nationals, but we'll read what it does real quick. 2-drop barrier, permanent. If your opponent's leader card is green or yellow, reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand by 1. Auto once per turn. When a card in your hand is placed in your drop area by an opponent's skill, your opponent chooses 3 cards in their hand and sends them to their warp. So obviously against your green and yellow leaders, this is going to be more relevant against green leaders. You're going to be able to stifle their hand control options. So this is going to be really big against like Lord Slug. That is probably the strongest hand control deck right now. It's got several tops under its belt, and it's just something you're going to see maybe most likely once at a big tournament. Like at Nats, you might expect to play against like one Slug, but that's a deck that can really catch you off guard if you're not prepped for it. So and you have random other things like Shenron hand control. You've got like Dende Frieza where you can bring this in. This also was ruled that it works against Live to Fight Another Day in the prison matchup. So there's a lot of matchups where this thing is actually pretty applicable in. So I would definitely consider sideboarding it. Then we've got Gowasu Zamasu's Master. This is a card that you have access to no matter what color you're playing, whether you're playing red, blue, yellow, or green. Any leader color has this. And if you're playing a black leader, you also have Vegeta making an entrance. It's a little harder to use, but it is another option. So when you combo this card, you can choose, you can discard a card, and then you can choose up to 3 of your own battle cards in your drop area and place them back into your deck. So this is an anti-mill card. Kind of unfortunate that it takes 2 out of your hand, but it does help you against mill. Basically gives you like 1 extra turn if you use it, and it has another effect that's relevant against something like Shenron Ramp. So the other effect says choose 1 battle card in your opponent's drop area, return it to their deck, then your opponent shuffles the deck. So like I mentioned in my video yesterday, they're not playing a ton of copies of their boss monsters. They're playing like 2 Gogeta 7s, 2 Kaokens, 1 Secret Rare. If you can get any of those back into the deck, it can really help your game plan out a lot, really slow down their game plan. Force Projection Mass Saiyan, again, same idea for Gogeta Ramp. I love this card a lot because it's a cheap overwhelm. It's 15k pressure as opposed to Dende, which is pretty energy inefficient. And this card can snipe a potential of 2 of your opponent's energy if you can resolve 2 of them in 1 turn. I talked more about that in the video yesterday and how to counter Gogeta Shenron Ramp, so make sure you check that out. But I like this card a lot. Haruharu, Attacker Majin, excellent against U6. Really just, it's a card they hate, and if they're playing Kava, they can't really counteract this. They can't play Whis or Borgos to counteract the untap. They can play Frost Poison, but that's a very expensive play on their part. So Haruharu just a main board staple right now. Tien Shinhan, another piece of Janemba hate. This is really a big one because what I've noticed a lot of times with the Guy Janemba deck is that they're going to like Vegeta the Cruel something you play, and they really want to untap more energy when you swing at them using Dimension Magic. So they can use more negates like the Bojack negate, or they can use more counterplays. So I would really recommend Tien. It seems really strong right now. Also, another fun sideboard card. It depends on what deck you're playing, but you can play Trunks Power Overseeing Time, which grabs any card from your warp, adds it back to your hand. So you can just loop Tien with that card, put on a lot of pressure. Really good combo. Mass Saiyan Mysterious Warrior, a little bit more U6 hate, also really good against like pan strategies that abuse familial bonds. So basically against U6, you take out one of their 4-drops, one of their 1-drops, you just traded 1 card for 2 cards, and if you swing this at them while they're awakened, they're probably not going to want to take any more damage, so they're probably going to spend even more cards to not take this hit. Also against pan, they've got like tons of 2s and 3-drops, so really high value there. Then we got Dimensional Vanisher Fu. This is going to be for your random big boss monster decks. So you got things like Vegeta Baby, you've got things like U6. I mean, even if you can't afford Mass Saiyan Mysterious Warrior, even if you really don't want the 10k combo, even if you really just want to have your deck full of 5ks, Dimensional Banisher is still really good in that situation because you do get to clear the 4-drops and things of that nature. So in other formats and other matchups, we did talk about Vegeta Baby. You've also got things like Toki Toki City strategies where you can remove the Dark Banisher Fu. You've also got Yellow Broly. Let's say you're playing a yellow deck and you play Champa the Trickster or Mutaito, you're going to be able to rest their battle card, whether it's Titan Mastery, whether it's Kaioken Goku, and you just clean it up the next turn with Dimensional Vanisher Fu. Because if you're not able to clear those things on the following turn or kill the opponent on that following turn, then like, you know, resting the Titan Mastery, resting the Kaioken, it's really not super effective if you're not able to kill them the following turn. So Dimensional Vanisher Fu, really good for cleanup. Then we have Fu the Dark Banisher, another very strong card that a lot of people are even maining one of right now, but this is a strong card for a lot of matchups. So off the bat, it hits Janemba really hard, makes them pitch a lot of cards. Now what you'll notice is a lot of times, this isn't going to be the card that kills Janemba. What it is going to do though is you're going to play it down, ideally next to other threats on your board, and then the Janemba player is going to be taxed heavily by activating skills while you're just, you know, onslaughting them with tons of battle cards. They probably won't die that turn, but it should set you up to win on the following turn. That's the idea of Fu the Dark Banisher there. But it's also really good against other really grindy decks. So for example, if you're playing against Pan's a really big one right now. If you play against Pan, they're really grindy. They don't have like a turn 4, turn 5 wing condition. They kind of want to just out-resource you. Fu the Dark Banisher is going to be one of the key cards to help you out-resource them. And they don't really have access to a card like Champa the Trickster or Mutaito that can rest this thing relatively easily. Also decent against like Shenron Ramp if you are on the play, if you're going first. This is going to help because you can usually get to turn 4 by the time they before they get to their win turn. The only thing that could be difficult is like getting 8 cards in the drop area, but if you're playing a burst leader or burst cards, that can be helpful a little bit. And yeah, this card is going to be an MVP in any matchup where your opponent is playing a grind deck. If they're not playing an OTK deck, if they're not playing a boss monster win condition deck, Fu the Dark Banisher is going to help you outgrind them and whittle down their resources. So guys, this has been my list for the 10 cards you should definitely be considering in your sideboard for this current format. Again, it's so wide open that I wanted to make it as generic as possible. A lot of them are black, but we do have the one card like Nimbus. I guess if you're playing red, the closest thing would be, is that all you got? But again, it's just not quite the same as our Flying Nimbus. But the rest of these cards, again, super cheap, super affordable, very, very splashable. And if you wouldn't mind using my TCG Player link in the description below, really would help me out a lot, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or any other suggestions for cards that you think we should sideboard, put those in the comments below. Thanks for watching. See you later.